All right, ready to dive deep into something interesting. Today, it's garlic and onions.
Not just for cooking, though, right?
Right, we're talking about the health benefits.
Ah, so beyond just adding flavor to our food.
Exactly. We've got some medical research on allergies, studies on how they affect your liver and arteries, and even tips on how to eat more of them.
Okay, I'm intrigued. I love garlic and onions, so I'm ready to hear this.
Well, get this, these ordinary ingredients are packed with sulfur.
Sulfur, like the stuff that smells like rotten eggs.
Well, yeah, but in this case, it's a good thing. It's crucial for your body's natural detox system.
So garlic and onions are like detox helpers.
Exactly. They help your liver get rid of all the bad stuff. And speaking of things that might surprise you, did you know you can actually be allergic to garlic?
Really? I had no idea.
It's not super common, but it's a real thing. And it can cause all sorts of reactions, from skin rashes to breathing problems.
Wow, I guess you learn something new every day. What's the difference between a garlic allergy and just, like, not liking it?
Good question. A true allergy involves your immune system, while an intolerance is more of a digestive issue. And raw garlic is more likely to trigger a reaction than cooked.
Makes sense. So if someone thinks they might have an allergy, what should they do?
Definitely talk to a doctor. They can figure out what's going on. And keep in mind, if you're allergic to garlic, you might also react to other things in the same family, like onions, chives, leeks, those kinds of things.
So it's kind of a package deal.
Exactly. Now let's switch gears for a minute and talk about how garlic and onions impact your liver and arteries.
Those are pretty important organs, right?
Super important. And it turns out all the everyday stress we deal with, pollution, processed foods, even just being busy all the time, can really take a toll on them.
Yeah, modern life can be rough sometimes.
Right. And our bodies respond to that stress with inflammation, which is actually a good thing in the short term. It's part of healing.
But too much inflammation is bad, right?
Exactly. Chronic inflammation can lead to all sorts of problems, and that's where garlic and onions come in. They have compounds that can help fight inflammation and protect those vital organs.
So they're like little bodyguards.
Exactly. They're giving your body some extra support to fight back against the daily grind. And speaking of things that are important for your health, let's talk about cholesterol.
Oh, cholesterol. That's the bad stuff, right? Like the thing we're always trying to avoid.
It's not all bad, actually. Cholesterol is essential for things like cell membranes and hormones, but it's all about balance.
So too much cholesterol is what causes problems.
Right. Especially when it's combined with inflammation, that's when you start to see plaque buildup in your arteries.
And that's what leads to heart attacks and strokes.
Yeah.
Right. So how do garlic and onions fit into all of this?
Remember that sulfur we talked about earlier? Well, it plays a key role in helping your liver detoxify. And guess what? Garlic and onions are packed with sulfur.
So those little ninjas are helping clear out the bad cholesterol.
They're definitely making a difference. They help those enzymes in your liver break down harmful substances more effectively.
Wow. So they're helping protect our hearts in multiple ways. This is pretty amazing stuff.
It really is. And guess what? The benefits don't stop there. Garlic and onions are also natural antibiotics.
Wait, seriously? So they fight infections too?
They sure do. They help fight off those harmful bacteria and viruses. And the best part is, they target the bad bacteria while leaving the good gut bacteria alone.
I'm starting to think these little bulbs are superheroes in disguise.
They're definitely pretty impressive. And we're just getting started. So we've established that garlic and onions are basically tiny superheroes, fighting inflammation, boosting detoxification, and even acting as natural antibiotics. Now let's get practical. How do we actually get more of these wonder foods into our diet?
Well, the good news is incorporating them doesn't require a culinary degree. You probably already use them in your cooking, but there are a few things to keep in mind to maximize their benefits. Fresh garlic and onions. First off, pack the most punch.
Makes sense. The closer to the source, the more nutrient dense, right?
But I have to admit, I'm guilty of using jarred minced garlic sometimes for convenience.
I understand the appeal of convenience, but it's worth the extra effort to use fresh whenever possible. You'll be amazed by the difference in flavor, too. And it's not just about using fresh. The way you prepare them matters, too. Crushing or chopping garlic and onions helps release those beneficial sulfur compounds we talked about earlier. Think of it as activating their superpowers.
So basically, we need to rough them up a bit to unleash their full potential. That's actually kind of fun.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to experiment with different ways to use them. Beyond the usual sautéing and roasting, there are so many creative possibilities. One of our sources, a YouTube video with some mouthwatering visuals, suggests adding garlic and onions to hummus.
Now that you mention it, I did see that. It seems like such a simple way to boost the flavor and nutritional profile of a go-to snack. Speaking of simple, they also highlight the magic of caramelized onions. A little patience and low heat can transform these humble alliums into a sweet and savory delight. Imagine adding a spoonful of caramelized onions to your next soup or sandwich.
Oh, stop. You're making me hungry. I do love a good French onion soup, or just about anything with caramelized onions, honestly.
And don't underestimate the power of roasted garlic. Roasting mellows out the flavor, giving it a sweet and nutty quality that pairs beautifully with all sorts of dishes. You can even spread it on toast, like butter.
Okay, I have to try that. It sounds like a delicious and healthy alternative to my usual butter routine. What about using them in less traditional ways? Any suggestions there?
Absolutely. One idea that caught my eye was adding garlic and onions to mashed cauliflower. It's a creative way to sneak in more nutrients and elevate a simple side dish.
I'm all about sneaking in those veggies. And speaking of sneaking things in, what about breakfast? Any ideas for incorporating garlic and onions into our morning meals?
There's nothing like starting the day with some sautéed onions and garlic in your eggs, whether it's an omelet, frittata, or just scrambled.
I can already smell those savory breakfast aromas.
And for those who like a bit of heat, adding a pinch of chili flakes to your garlic and onion sauté is a game changer.
Ooh, I like the way you think. And speaking of flavor pairings, the YouTube video also showcased some vibrant salsas and guacamole, all amped up with fresh garlic and onions. I can imagine those adding a serious punch to any meal.
It's all about finding those little ways to infuse your everyday cooking with these flavorful powerhouses. Remember, you don't have to follow recipes precisely. Don't be afraid to get creative and experiment.
I love that. It's about having fun in the kitchen and discovering what works for you. But beyond just flavor, one thing that really stood out to me in the research was the idea of garlic and onions as natural preservatives.
That's right. They can actually help extend the shelf life of certain foods, which is especially important nowadays when we're all trying to reduce food waste.
It's like a 2-for-1, deal amazing flavor and extended freshness.
It's like our ancestors knew something we're just rediscovering. There's so much wisdom in traditional food practices, and garlic and onions are a prime example of that. They've been used for centuries for both culinary and medicinal purposes.
It's fascinating how modern science is confirming so many of their traditional uses. We've covered a lot of ground today, exploring the science behind garlic and onions' impressive health benefits, and even getting some practical tips on how to incorporate them into our diets.
I think what's most striking is that these two humble ingredients, often taken for granted, can have such a profound impact on our well-being.
It really is remarkable, but I'm curious, what's the one big takeaway you want our listener to walk away with today? What's the message that you hope sticks with them?
After all this talk about garlic and onions, the main thing I hope listeners take away is that you don't need some crazy diet to be healthy.
Yeah, sometimes the simplest things are the best.
Right. Garlic and onions have been around forever. People have used them for cooking and medicine for centuries, and now science is proving what people have known all along.
It's amazing how these everyday ingredients can have such a powerful impact.
Absolutely. Just by making small changes like adding more garlic to your dishes or swapping out that jarred stuff for fresh, you can really boost your health. It all adds up.
It's those little consistent choices that make the difference.
Exactly. But it's important to remember, everyone is different. What works for one person might not work for someone else.
That's so true. It's all about listening to your own body and finding what feels right for you.
And don't forget, if you have any concerns or questions, always talk to your doctor. They can help you create a plan that's right for you.
Great advice. Well, I think we've successfully peeled back the layers of garlic and onions today, revealing their hidden superpowers.
We've covered a lot of ground, that's for sure.
From allergies and detoxing to delicious ways to add more garlic and onions to your diet. Hopefully, everyone listening feels inspired to embrace these incredible ingredients.
Absolutely. It's all about those small, consistent choices that can lead to a healthier and happier you. So get in the kitchen, have fun, experiment, and enjoy the journey.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us for this flavorful deep dive.